Earlier this week, I made a video looking at 7 footballers from across Europe's top 5 leagues without a single league assist to their name this season. Feel free to give that video a watch if you haven't already, I'll stick up a link to it at the end, but that video proved to be pretty popular as well as being quite interesting for me to research, so I thought why not replicate it for players with 0 goals. As with the assists video, I'm not just going to pick 7 goalkeepers or fullbacks. This is essentially a list of players who either really ought to have bagged a fair few goals this season but haven't, or at the very least, some of the players who I was most surprised to discover hadn't scored a single league goal all season. Just before I start, as my YouTube partner manager likes to remind me, despite the channel recently having smashed through the 300,000 subscribers barrier at a rate of knots, still more than 75% of all the channel's views come from non-subscribers. Now, I could understand that a little while ago, when the channel was a bit hit and miss in truth, with the odd stroke of genius lying marooned among a sea of detritus. But there are no excuses for that now that I'm actually making mostly half-decent videos. I'm trying to bring out 2 or 3 football documentaries a week now, and most of them are extremely watchable. So if you'll just subscribe now, I'll get one of those big shiny gold plaques to put next to my small silver one. You'll get to watch the font of footballing genius that is me, discussing the relationships between footballers and dictators across the globe, as well as the history of the offside law. As far as I can tell, everyone's a winner. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to logging on and seeing that I've hit the big 1 million in the morning, and as a reward, here are 7 footballers from across Europe's top 5 leagues without a single league goal this season. Claudio Pizzaro. This may seem like a harsh inclusion, given that Diego Maradona still hadn't retired when Claudio Pizzaro began his career, during the same year in which Oasis released Wonderwall and this humble YouTube sensation was born. However, whilst the Peruvian may be older than time itself, it is still somewhat surprising that the fossilised Bundesliga frontman hasn't bagged a single league goal this season. This was Pizzaro's final season in the game, aged 41, and for the first time in his 24 seasons as a professional, he failed to bag a league goal. Pizzaro played 18 Bundesliga games this season, albeit all 18 came from the bench. Following 5 league goals from 26 outings last season, Pizzaro failed to find the back of the net during his 18 cameo appearances this season, in what was a pretty miserable season for Werder Bremen in general. Werder finished 16th this season, but managed to overcome second Bundesliga side Heidenheim on away goals in the relegation playoff to avoid losing their Bundesliga status for the first time in 40 years. Pizzaro wasn't involved in the relegation playoff games, but he did roll back the years in Werder's first game of the season, coming off the bench in a German cup tie against 5th tier Atlas Delmenhorst to score a brace. Pizzaro has now officially hung up his boots, and we obviously wish him a very happy retirement. Guido Burgstahler. Staying in the Bundesliga in 6th place, but with a striker who is a decade younger than Claudio Pizzaro and who started plenty of games this season. It hasn't been a great season for David Wagner at Schalke, with the Royal Blues finishing just above the relegation places, and one of their primary problems has been scoring goals. Midfielder Suat Serdar, who oddly enough was an honourable mention in the 0 assist video earlier this week, was Schalke's top scorer in the Bundesliga this season, with only 7 goals. That's 7 more than Guido Burgstahler, who those of you with an outstanding memory may recall was one of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's handful of signings during his time at Cardiff City. Burgstahler has previously proven himself to be a decent forward, capable of playing in a variety of different roles, and always willing to roll his sleeves up and ensure defenders don't get too much time to think on the ball. Burgstahler had scored 24 goals in 74 Bundesliga games during his first 3 seasons at the Veltins Arena, but this season he managed to go an entire league campaign without finding the back of the net. Like Pizzaro, Burgstahler saved all of his goals for the cup this season, scoring twice in 2 games in the DFB Pokal. Burgstahler's season went from bad to worse in March, when the 31-year-old ruptured his knee ligaments, but hopefully he can make a full recovery and get back among the goals before too long. Giovani Lo Celso. To follow 2 centre-forwards with a midfielder may seem somewhat underwhelming, but I still found this just a touch surprising. Given that there were large parts of this season in which Giovani Lo Celso was Tottenham's most impressive player, his output in terms of goals and assists perhaps suggests that the Argentine could be a little more decisive in the final third. Particularly since the departure of Christian Eriksen, Spurs have lacked goals in midfield, but they could be forgiven for hoping that Lo Celso would solve some of those problems. The former PSG midfielder scored a whopping 16 goals in all competitions for Real Betis last season, including 9 in the league. Such a clever footballer, the majority of Lo Celso's goals at Betis came from his intelligent movement, drifting into the box unnoticed, before striking the ball home. That hasn't been the case in North London, where Lo Celso has failed to score a single goal despite registering 28 Premier League appearances. He did score in the Champions League and in the FA Cup against Middlesbrough and Red Star Belgrade, but it's been a big fat naught in the league. If you were being generous, you might point out that Lo Celso has played a little deeper this season than last, and that Jose Mourinho's side haven't been a savage attacking force, but I do think that is being a little generous. Lo Celso is a classy footballer, but he has to improve upon 2 assists and no goals in the Premier League next season. Brais Mendes. The hardcore long-time HITC Sevens subscribers among you may recall that around 18 months ago, Brais Mendes featured in my video taking a look at the 7 most improved players during the 2018-19 campaign. Mendes was superb at Celta Vigo last season, scoring 6 goals and making 7 assists in La Liga, earning himself his first cap for Spain, in which he scored on his international debut. Mendes may have a 1-in-1 record for the Spanish national team, but he has a non-in-32 record at club level this season. Off the back of a brilliant breakout campaign, the Spaniard has been unable to build up any kind of momentum this season, starting 16 games and coming off the bench in a further 16. In what has been a poor season for Celta Vigo, the club finished just 1 point and 1 place above Leganes in the relegation zone. In fairness to Mendes, he hasn't played a great deal of football in his favoured position in attacking midfield, often deputised a little deeper or out wide on one of the flanks. But no goals at 22 years of age, when he scored 7 last season, is indisputably disappointing, and adding to his solitary cap for Spain looks a long way off right now. Matias Vargas. This season has been an unmitigated disaster for Espanyol, who have lost their La Liga status for the first time since the early to mid 1990s. It's a particularly bitter come down, considering that the club finished 7th in the La Liga table last season, qualifying for the Europa League. What's more, they weren't relegated by a whisker this season, they finished dead last, a full 12 points from safety, with the worst goal difference in the division. There were many problems for Espanyol this season, but none more detrimental than their inability to score goals. Following the departure of last season's top scorer Borja Iglesias, Espanyol didn't mess about in the transfer market, bringing Raul de Thomas for €20 million from Benfica and Matias Vargas for more than £10.5 million from Vélez in Argentina. Between them, for a combined total in excess of €30 million, they scored 4 goals in La Liga this season. Raul de Thomas scored all 4 of those goals, whilst Vargas blanked all season, with the exception of his 2 goals in the Europa League. Capable of playing as a number 10, but at his best when coming in off the left, Vargas has quick feet and loves to run at defenders. He won his first cap for Argentina 2 years ago, aged only 21, but he looked a million miles off an international call-up this season. Espanyol will be hoping to bounce back at the first opportunity next season, whilst Vargas will be hopeful of rediscovering form in Spain's second tier. Lucas Paqueta. When AC Milan struck a deal to sign Lucas Paqueta for €35 million in October 2018, it was seen as a major coup by the Serie A side, and evidence that they could still compete with Europe's elite in terms of pulling power even following almost a decade of mismanagement and underachievement. Paqueta was hot property, having burst onto the scene at Flamengo, lighting up games with his flair and invention from attacking midfield, and already having won his first caps for Brazil. Paqueta was the youngest player among Chiche's 23-man squad and 12 provisional alternatives going into the 2018 World Cup, and whilst he was never called upon as a replacement, it was evidence of the high regard the then 20-year-old was held in. PSG fought tooth and nail to sign the youngster, but it was AC Milan who saw off all other competition. During his first half season at the San Siro, Paqueta scored 1 goal and made 1 assist from 13 appearances. He showed glimpses of his quality during those first 6 months, but he has struggled to even produce glimpses this season. In 27 games this season, across all competitions, Paqueta has 0 goals and 1 assist, which doesn't make for great reading. AC Milan now stand at a crossroads with regards to their ailing Brazilian boy wonder, who is their 3rd most expensive signing of all time, and it remains to be seen whether they will retain faith in him this summer, attempt to cut their losses, or loan him out in the hope that he regains some kind of form and competence over the next 12 months. Honourable mentions. As ever, there are too many honourable mentions for me to cover them all, but the following players have all failed to score a league goal in one of Europe's top 5 leagues this season: Luka Digne, Nemanja Matic, Etienne Capoue, Fred, Dani Ceballos, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, James MacArthur, Manuel Lanzini, Laszlo Benes, Amadou Haidara, Cesc Fabregas, Jesus Navas, Tony Villa, Alex Febas, Fran Merida, Manuel Locatelli, Rodrigo Bentancur, Solihu Miete, Manuel Lazzari, Florian Ayer, and Marco Verratti. Combine the number of league goals every one of those players has scored this season, along with the 7 that actually made the cut, and you still have 1 fewer than Ben Mee scored this season, and the same number as Phil Bardsley. That's all well and good, I can hear you thinking, but I suspect you're hoping for a gem of a player without a single goal up next, and I think I can provide one. Thomas Lemar. No, I'm not having it. Surely not. I can feel the sheer shock coursing through your veins, being transmitted through your laptop, phone or tablet. But I wouldn't knowingly lie to you on this channel except for that one time when I said that HITC Sevens was the best YouTube channel on earth. I am being 100% honest when I say that Thomas Lemar, a man who cost Atletico Madrid a reported €70 million and scored 14 goals in a single season at the age of 20, hasn't scored a single goal this season. Between La Liga and the Champions League, Lemar has made 29 appearances this season, despite having suffered repeated muscle injuries. Unfortunately, those setbacks seem to have prevented Lemar from building up any kind of form or momentum, and he hasn't recorded a single goal or assist all season. In fact, when I say that, I'm not quite sure how he didn't make my assist 7 as well, but he can't miss out on 2 videos in a row. Lemar, who once came mightily close to moves to both Liverpool and Arsenal worth in excess of £60 million, is now being linked with a move away from the Spanish capital. For a club that is so renowned for their frugality in comparison to their La Liga title rivals, if Atletico are to cash in on Lemar this summer, it will be for a significant loss. Everton are the frontrunners, according to some reports, but even half of what Atletico paid for the Frenchman 2 years ago would seem expensive for a man without a single goal or assist in 12 months at club level. So that's it for today's video. Thank you as ever for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed it, let me know your views down in the comments, make sure to subscribe to HITC Sevens, and if you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, the username is just HITC Sevens.